Hey parents, how are you? Hi Leanne, how you doing?
Good, how are you, Linda? Love your lounge.
Thank you. Well, it's you and I tonight in the lounge. I was hoping to have other parents on board so I could share my lounge.
It looks fabulous. Looks fab.
Thanks. And I think I'm going to have a new lounge every single Friday just to get a change of scenery. But anyway, parents, hopefully you'll tune into this as we upload it onto Facebook. And so if you are tuning in, if you're listening to this right now, welcome along. I'm glad you could join us. It is Easter Friday, Good Friday, and what a Good Friday it is. I suspect that and hope that everyone's busy at home having time with their parents. So how's your week been, Leanne?
Yeah, no, it's been really good. So it was quite funny. You said, I hope everyone's at home having time with their parents.
And their teens.
Yeah, so with their teens. And so my day's been really good. I've really been like a lounge lizard. So I've done absolutely nothing, which is probably what a lot of people have done, and just, you know, hung about at home and had a relax after a fairly busy week.
Nice. Well, like you, I've had a little bit of a relax, but one of the challenges is that my teens have been cooking muffins, chocolate brownies, banana bread. My scales are just going up and up. So I'm going to need serious help soon, and I know you've been eating some chocolate chip cookies as well.
Excellent.
But hey, listen, tonight, why don't we just cover off on teens and mental health, because, you know, it is a big thing at the moment, mental health, and I know Beyond Blue and other organisations are putting a bit out in the media. You have got an absolutely fantastic model around how to support teens at home and what to do, you know, if there's anxiety and even depression and worry and stress in the home. Do you want to maybe just share a bit of that with the parents tonight?
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool idea, Linda. And, you know, I was just looking at Beyond Blue, and for parents in Australia, you will no doubt know Beyond Blue is a non-for-profit organisation, and they support mental health, and anyone can call in from at any age. And there's also kids help and a number of non-for-profits, which I'm sure whatever country you are in, they're going to be those online access opportunities. I think the key thing that made me think about it being a good topic tonight is that I was looking at the news only last night, and Beyond Blue, the CEO, was on the news saying that they've had a 30% increase in calls to Beyond Blue, which is not surprising given COVID-19 and everyone's kind of isolated and what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
And that in fact, of 1 out of 3 calls are related to COVID-19. So there's still there's a lot of anxiety about it. There's a lot of fear. And I think in terms of our teens, I think it's super important to, as parents through this time, just be checking in. And, you know, sometimes teens mask it because they don't want the stigma of, you know, that they're struggling. So the message to teens is, to parents is really, even if your teen looks like they're absolutely taking it in their stride, is just to still check in. Maybe not as frequently, but to check in and just, you know, how are you going with everything? And is there anything that I can help support you with? For those parents, they may, you know, that have teens that may struggle with mental health issues already, or they're very anxious by nature and temperament, they particularly will need some, you know, more in-depth support from us as parents during this time.
Yeah, and like it's teens don't always reach out for help, just like parents don't always reach out for help. And I was running a workshop yesterday online with a group of nurses, and I said, you know, who here ever puts their hand up for help? And very few of them do. So, and I think as a human race, we're often a bit like that, aren't we? So I love what you're saying there about reach out and check in. And
yeah. And I think to your point, I think that's a really good point, is it goes for parents as well. So as adults, you know, we've got to support and help our teens, but not to forget about looking after ourselves as well. And if we're really struggling, to reach out and ask for support. So what I thought I might do, Linda, is just share. So this, as you know very well, is part of our React at Home program. So this is the mental health program that we have available online for parents who are wanting to get a better understanding of mental health issues in our teens and really how to support teenagers. And what I love about the model is it provides kind of a step-by-step approach on what parents need to think about when they are wanting to have that conversation. And how about you and I just, you know, share a few of the steps together as we walk parents through the model, and just to give them an idea of, if they are sitting there concerned and they're kind of thinking, what do I say and how do I say it? Hopefully this will give some insight into what that looks like.
Yeah, I think a nice idea to go through that, because it's an awesome model. And I remember the first time you showed it to me, it was just blown away at the simplicity, but the importance of it.
Yeah, and I think the good thing is it's evidence-based. I mean, as you know, I'm a youth mental health first aid instructor, and you know, my background, I've also have in counselling and medical. So, you know, it's a very full model of organisations out there that have steps that go into how to support someone who's struggling. A very common one in Australia is the Are You Okay? So this is kind of a little bit more detailed to give parents a bit of a more substance into, you know, what they can say and how to say it. So if we just look at the React model here, and we started R for React, the first thing is recognizing, you know, is your teen struggling? And, you know, as I said earlier, your teen may be looking like they're cruising, but underneath that, it may not be the case. Now, if they're cruising and you check in with them anyway and they're fine, absolutely great. If, however, they're not fine but trying to appear fine, it gives them an opportunity to have a conversation. The second thing is to, you know, if you've got a particularly anxious child, look, you know, be able to recognize those signs of anxiousness. You know, they're not sleeping well, maybe they're not eating well, maybe they seem a little bit on edge, a little bit emotional, a bit moody. So there's a number of things you can look at when you, you know, to recognize whether your teen needs a check-in.
Yeah.
The second thing is environment. So environment's really important because, you know, what we want to do is make sure that when we have the conversation, often for them, privacy and confidentiality is huge. So they don't want to be asked in the middle of a family dinner, hey, how are you going? You look upset. They want to, you know, be asked where there's some privacy, where if they can open up and want to open up, they will. And so parents must look at the environment and just make sure that they choose somewhere that they can have a private conversation with their teen, and make sure that you've got some time. Don't do it if you've got 5 minutes and you've got to rush out the door to do some shopping. So make sure you've got time and you're not distracted. So put your phone down, put your computer down, so that they feel that you're there with them. And remember, depending on your child, they might not mind you looking at them in the face and having the conversation. You know, some teens may be sitting on the bed next to them and both looking forward, so you're not eyeballing them, they feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So have a think for, you know, I think parents have just got to think what works for their teen. And then in terms of approaching, I mean, some parents, as you know, Linda, on our workshops, they often go, well, what do I say? Like, how do I raise it? And I think the important thing is to stick to what you've observed. So don't make up, I think you are, or it looks like you are. It's just simply bring up what you've observed. And it could go something along the lines of, hey, I've noticed that you don't seem like you're chatting as much as you usually do. Are you okay? Or I've noticed that you seem quite emotional about XYZ. I just want to check in. Are you okay? So again, notice something factual, and you might get pushback. They might go, well, what do you mean? But just just ask them gently, and remember the way you interact with them is super important in your tone of voice and how you come across, that it's not like super judgy. So approaching them just in a, hey, don't see yourself, what's up? And do you want to have a chat? I'm wondering if you want to just cover the next couple of steps.
Yes, love to. And so C is around that level of compassion, and how do we have compassion for our teens when we do show up? And how easy is it to sometimes not be quite so empathetic with our teens if we're not putting ourselves into their shoes? So it's really about, how can we put ourselves into our teens' shoes and really show a level of compassion? And even more than that too, and we've talked about this quite a lot, Leanne, is really around being non-judgmental. Non-judgmental, let me say that again. So our teens don't feel like we're judging them, because if we judge them, if we're not empathetic, if we don't try and put ourselves into their shoes, then they're not going to have that conversation. And it doesn't matter what we recognise or how our approach is to them, they're not going to have that conversation with us at all, because they're just not quite so comfortable to.
Yeah, and one thing around that judgment is also, instead of the judgment, replace it with curiosity. So, and sometimes we can be a little bit, I can be a bit irritable as a parent, and I'm frustrated, I'm tired, and I'm having this conversation and not getting much back from my teen. And we kind of default to judgy. And I find that I've got to stop myself and go, don't judge their behavior or how they're interacting, rather be curious about it and ask questions. And that's really helped me to navigate that judgy piece about me.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think when you can do that, and then you can really, the next step there is tuning in, but really tuning into your teen. Now, I know we've talked about this before in terms of active listening, and it sounds really easy, but it's not. And I don't know about you, but how many times do you listen to your teens and you're ready to jump in before they've even finished speaking? So, and I move forward when I do that, because that's sometimes what it feels like. So we're listening, but not really listening, because we just want to tell them what we think. So it's listening without interruption. It's being able to ask lots of open-ended questions and check in with them and show them that we really understand what they're saying. And that could simply look like nodding our head, going, yeah, I'm hearing you. So what are the things that we do in terms of really tuning in? And so I would encourage parents to think about, how do they respond and how do they listen, or do they just jump in ready to go? So it's about letting them talk.
Yeah, and I think a key thing on that tuning in is not listening to talk. And, I always used to be the queen of solutions. So when my team was chatting to me about something, I'd immediately go, well, you can do this, and have you thought of that, and why don't you do this? And that that shows them that I haven't heard them. I'm not listening to them. I'm not holding the space for them. I'm just coming up with my stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's also a key thing around tuning in, is just listen to them until they burnt out, until they've said everything. And really, I have to hold myself back, because we're trying to solve the stuff for them, because I hate seeing my teens in pain. And it's kind of a natural thing we do as parents, but we have to give them the space to be able to talk with us without us interrupting.
Yeah, so important. And it's something that you just said. I had a thought, and it's gone now, but it was about that really listening and problem solving, not jumping in and trying to solve their problems, but even saying, and this is one thing that I've learned, and you've taught me this as well, and you pulled me up on it a couple of times, actually, to say, so what is it that you need right now? How can I support you? So rather than jumping in and going, oh, why don't you try this or do that? How can I support you right now? And get them to think about what they need and tell us. Yeah.
And so what I love about the react component is that's really how to recognize, choose the right environment, what to say and how to say it, and to hold the space the home component acronym. The H stands for health check. So it's inquiring with them, you know, looking at how they're looking after themselves. Is there anything about them that you're concerned about? You know, are you exercising? How's your diet going? Are you eating okay? And I mean, generally, because they live in the home, you should, you know, have a sense of what that looks like. But it's just trying to give them, you know, top to toe to see if there's anything, you know, from a health point of view. How are you feeling? You know, is your body feeling okay? You know, because sometimes teens that are anxious, they present with symptoms in their body, a stomach, like if they are fearful, with stomach ache or headache or muscle pain because they're tensing their muscles. So just do a quick health check to see how they're feeling in their body is worth, and you know, you might get some flags coming up there, and they might share something with you when you ask those specific questions. The other thing is, when it comes to the other support, which is this step here, is to have a think, you know, I always say to parents, if your gut is going, something is not right here. From what I've heard and the interaction I'm having with my teen, go and get a health professional to give them a once over. Like there are, you know, there are doctors that, you know, at least you can take your teen in, they can have a conversation with the doctor and you can get a sense of where they're at. It really, really is important. If you feel they're just a bit anxious and they're just a little bit unhappy at the moment, but you don't feel there's a red flag, you could also ask them, you know, who do you use in your support group, in your peer group? What is, you know, can you reach out to your best mate? You know, what can you do, you know, to link in? And one thing they always encourage with youth mental health is to allow them to own their journey. Don't tell them what to do and who to contact, but suggest it to them. You know, what about us going to see our family doctor? Or one of the other opportunities they say is, you know, give them the option to go online, because they don't feel confronted by a person, and it's often a natural next step. Why don't you go and look at online and, you know, here are a few resources, and look, there are some teen resources that you can check out, and let's have a conversation again. So let them get some, you know, maybe they've got an uncle that they absolutely love, or an aunt they love that's kind of their mentor outside of the parent unit. You know, why don't you, you know, maybe get them to have a chat with them. So it's just looking for, trying to get a network around them that they can seek support from as well.
Yeah, and how important is that, having that network? And I always kind of think, if they don't talk to me about stuff, well, I mean, my preference is for my teens to talk to me about what's going on for them, but as long as they've got somebody to talk to, and that's the important thing. And some parents don't like their teens going off to talk to other people because they want to be the go-to, but it's not always what our teens want at the time. So yeah, absolutely. So,
and can I just probably challenge that as well, Linda? It's not about us, it's about what they need. And yes, it might be a little bit heartbreaking. What do you mean you don't want to talk to me? I'm your mother or father. And why do you want to talk to Uncle Jeff? Well, as long as they are talking to someone is really what we should take away from that. So I think that's a super important point.
Yeah. And even if I can just stay on that point momentarily, but taking them to see the family doctor. Now, I've heard parents talk about, you know, their teens have wanted to go and see their doctor, and the parents kind of just dismiss it. And I don't know if you've done that yourself. I know I certainly have. And then I think, no, actually, if they really feel they need to go, then I'm going to take them, because I don't always know everything that's going on. So they often know what they want. It's we need to tune in more. We need to listen and not judge.
Yeah.
So I think that's where this model's good, because it covers so many different spaces.
Yeah, absolutely.
So managing load, and this can be a real big one too. And like it's school holidays just at the moment, and with being isolated or, you know, socially distancing, often there's not as big a load right now. Fortunately for a lot of teens, but not always the case with every teen. But actually have a look at what's on our teens' plate, understand what they've got going on, and look at, you know, if there's anything that they're happy to offload. because sometimes we take on too much. Our teens take on too much. They want to do so many things and try so many things that it can really start to weigh them down. So looking at things like during school time, homework, you know, and looking at if anything needs to be adjusted. Now, even managing load, when school's on and when our teens are going to be studying from home, it's all different and new too. So whether they're using, I know a lot of teens are using in schools Microsoft Teams or other platforms, you know, it's just everyone's getting used to how it's all going to work out. Recreational activities is another one, probably not so big right at the minute with social distancing, but, you know, it will happen again at some point in time. And even looking at like sporting activities and things that can actually support them to manage stress. So in the absence of sporting activities, what could they do at home that's not overloading them, but does also help them to manage stress? So take a really close look at what's going on.
Yeah, and I think if I can just butt in there, I think an important thing to do also is to make sure that you have a conversation with them, because what they may have enjoyed when they were in early high school in terms of sport and extracurricular, maybe they don't enjoy it anymore. You know, what they've got on their plate, give them the ownership of, okay, this is what you've got on your plate. Let's figure out what stays and what goes. And, you know, there are going to be some things that have to stay, like schoolwork and that kind of thing. But give them a choice. And, you know, I've had parents challenge me back, but they must do this and they must do that. And, you know, I can't help but ask the parents the question, is that because you want them to do that? Or is it because they want to do it? And it's a tough question because, you know, sometimes we want the best for our kids, but just to remember, it's got to be what they want to do and have a conversation about managing load.
Yeah, really, really important what you're saying there about, well, my teens are doing that because actually I want them to do it.
Correct.
And we've all done that at some point in time because we want the best for them, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want what we didn't have. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So just looking at that last point there about encouraging them, checking in with them regularly, and encourage them to talk to you or to talk to somebody, have that conversation. And, you know, even check in with them on a scale of 0 to 10, you know, with 0 being not feeling great to 10 feeling really good, or you could do, you know, whichever way around that works for you. But just check in on their stress levels. How are they doing? You know, if it's a 0, not feeling great at all, and they're sitting down around 2 or 3, then it's time to really have some conversations and get some support and see the doc or go online, because teens, as we were saying earlier, and parents alike, they can be really reluctant to seek help.
Yeah.
And sometimes it means that if they're asking for help, they feel like they're weak, or they feel like they're failing. Or they feel like they're going to be judged, and that is so not the case, because parents, we want to support each other and we want to support our teens. So it is really about, you know, checking in, accessing services, encourage them to keep having those conversations with us. And you, I don't know if you've got anything else that you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, and I think it's also encouraging them where you know, even if you have a good conversation with them, they do open up. They do go, actually, Mum, I'm really struggling a bit, and let's talk about it. Just, you know, just validating them and go, thank you so much for sharing with me. I'm so glad that you opened up, because now I know how to support you. So on the one hand, the second thing is to encourage them to get some momentum. So, you know, when they do start to maybe move in the right direction, going, wow, I noticed that you did that, and wow, and amazing. So giving that validation, and also letting them know you're going to check in again. So, you know, thanks for sharing, and look, in a few days I'll check in with you. And, you know, they might go, Mom, I'll be fine, check in a week. Then you check in a week, but make sure that you check in and follow up. Yes. So I think that's a pretty powerful tool, Linda. What do you reckon?
Oh, I think it's really incredible. And and it is so simple. And I think having the acronym, you know, the REACT and the HOME, to then think about, okay, what is it that I need to do there to help teens?
Yeah, and I think that the cool thing about it is you don't have to do it in order. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously you have to recognize and choose the right place, but, you know, approaching and then checking in with the health and, you know, bringing compassion throughout the conversation. It doesn't have to be done step by step, but what it is it's a good framework to make sure that you have checked off everything, that you haven't missed something in terms of what that conversation could look like.
Yeah. And for teens to know that they're not alone.
Yes. Absolutely.
Is massive. For parents to say, you know, I hear what you're saying and you're acknowledging them, but for them to know that they're not alone, that there are a lot of teens going through this stressful time and the anxiety levels are high, because often, you know, we feel like we're the exception, but we're not. And that's why these services are there, because it's not just one person. We're not the exception. There are a lot of people who are struggling. So, yeah, I think the more we can talk, the better.
I saw an interesting ad that made me think the other day on the back of a bus. It was a young teen, and it said, "When I push you away, it means I want you to stay." So just be aware of it. They might give you that pushback initially because it might be an area they don't want to chat about. And they feel anxious or embarrassed that they're feeling like they are. So they might initially push back and go, "What are you talking about? That's a load of crap." Don't let that be, you know, don't respond to go, "Well, that's fine then, I'm not going to bother." Know that that may just mean, "Hey, I want you to stay. I just don't have the words to put in my mouth to explain how I'm feeling."
Yeah.
And, you know, if that's one thing we walk away with today from today's chat, is that check in and persevere, because at the end of the day, for your teen, as your parent, you are the most important primary caregiver in their life that they're going to reach out to, hopefully.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much for that, Leanne. And again, it is an awesome model. And parents, you know, take it into consideration. Think about what it is that you can do. And if you've got questions, if you've got concerns, if you're really not sure how one or more than one of those steps works, you know, watch the video again, get in touch with us, because we're so happy to have a conversation and help you through this. And that's what we're here for. That's why Leanne and I set up iParentTeens.
Yeah.
So I think on that note, Leanne, shall we wrap it up and go and have some Easter eggs or some hot cross buns for Good Friday?
I think so. And I think just to let the parents know that if you want to have a look at what we offer in that program, it's on our website. So www.ourparenteens.com. I don't know if I'm ever meant to say the www dot, but anyway.
Doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah, have a look at our website. And if you've got any questions, let us know. And I really hope we've served you tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And so awesome to see you. It's nice to spend Friday night in the lounge with you, even if nobody else rocked up tonight. So everybody, happy Easter, enjoy your break, and we'll be here again next Friday night and hope that you'll join us then.
Perfect.
Bye for now.
Thanks everyone. Bye for now.